Well, I think with the replacement of Kristi Noem, this was something that we saw coming after the Senate hearings and Republicans going after her for various issues. I am a fan of Kristi Noem. She's always been very good to me. I think she's very level-headed,
So did the president make
well-spoken.
a mistake?
I'm not saying that the president made a mistake. I do think that he did what he felt he needed to in replacing her. And Secretary Markwayne Mullen, I think will do a great job. And even I have a great personal story with him. There was someone who was harassing me in public, and immediately, without any hesitation, Markwayne stepped in and stopped this person and got a hold of the situation. And I think that he'll do the same in the Department of Homeland Security. But one thing
There's
I'm
nobody.
not,
Okay, we can all agree that there's nobody you would want more to be with you in a bar than Markwayne Mullen. He doesn't drink, but he would be a great person if there was ever a bar fight to have on your side, unquestionably. I consider him a good friend. We said that on the show. But I think this is an important point. You said you don't think President Trump did what he had to do. He made a mistake, but he did what he had to do. Did he do what he had to do because Republicans are now breaking with him?
Republicans have been very vocal about several members in the administration and the lack of product that is coming from the administration. And there are many members of Congress who have been very outspoken about this. Now, I think within DHS, there's been phenomenal results with securing the southern border, with reducing the fentanyl deaths and even deportations. Yes, there have been missteps for sure, but I think that was it's still
so let's look forward. Let's look forward. You've said that there's other members of the administration that Republicans are having a hard time with. Probably person number one in that would be Pam Bondi. Here's Congresswoman Nancy Mace on that.
This was actually my subpoena, and I led the subpoena motion out of the Oversight Committee. I believe that Pam Bondi has been less than truthful with the American people and with Congress on the Epstein files.
So is Pam Bondi the next person who President Trump is going to have a problem with?
We'll see how she handles herself in front of the Oversight Committee. I voted in favor of the subpoena that Nancy Mace put forward to bring Pam Bondi in before us. And it was simply because we were told that a few of us at a time had permission to visit the DOJ if we wanted a briefing. And we already have permission like that. That wasn't enough. And I do want her to come before the committee because I don't think that there have been enough prosecutions. And really going back to the Noem thing, I would rather see Secretary Mayorkas held accountable before Kristi Noem was removed from her position. And certainly as a Doge girl, I don't want to see new fake positions created for someone that you think can't handle the job that they were already in.
Hadn't thought of that side of it. Interesting. But this accusation is pretty serious, right, from Nancy Mace, accusing the Attorney General of being less than truthful with the American people. If there's anything you want an Attorney General to be, it is truthful with the American people. You said this all started, Donald Trump did what he had to do because effectively Republicans were making an issue of Kristi Noem. Why are Republicans now feeling like they can make issues for cabinet members of President Trump?
Well, it's very simple. We all campaigned making the same promises. And when those promises are not being met and we are not delivering for the American people, that is a huge problem. I'm in Congress because I had a Republican representative who said one thing at home and did another in D.C. And I get it. There are a lot of creatures to fight in the swamp, and leadership has control of what we do. But it's very frustrating in D.C. when you cannot fulfill those promises, those commitments that you made to your voters. And so whenever it's coming back on us, the true representatives, the ones who are closest to the American people, there has to be awareness raised and accountability taking place.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.